What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Skull Network. My name is Nick, and welcome back to the NFL Weekly Picks segment on the channel. This is week 6 of the NFL season, and last week in week 5 went incredible for me. I went 13-3 on my picks, which brings my overall season record to 52-28. So things are definitely heading in the right direction. Week 6 marks the time when teams start having their buys, and these are going to be the teams on bye for this week. So sorry if you're a fan of that team, you have to go a week without football. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get into some pretty great matchups for week number 6. Kicking things off for Thursday Night Football, we have the Buccaneers and the Eagles. I'm still undefeated in Thursday Night Football. My picks have not missed yet, and I don't think that this is going to be the week where it starts. As we know, the Eagles were able to beat the Carolina Panthers last week, albeit in the closing seconds, but Tampa Bay, my God, they just continue to get better every single week. When you think they can't put up any more points, they just keep doing that. And that Eagles defense is very prone to that, as we've seen this season. I see no reason that the Buccaneers don't put up another 35 plus points. I have them winning this one pretty easily. Kicking things off on Sunday, we have the London game with the Miami Dolphins and the Jaguars. I feel bad for people in London because they never really get great games, as we saw last week. You don't get good teams over there. And it looks like Tua Tagovailoa is on his way to being back for the Dolphins, so that certainly could be a big upgrade. Looks like Myles Gaskin's really being utilized in that offense a lot more. And the Jaguars, they're still struggling on both sides of the ball. It does not look like anything is starting to click there and won't be for any time soon. So I'm going to go with the relatively safe pick here. Sorry, London fans, but you're going to watch a pretty bad game. It's going to be the Dolphins winning this one. Moving on, we have the Chiefs and the Washington Football Team, two very underperforming teams so far this season. But just because the Chiefs are having so many problems and got absolutely ripped apart by the Bills, I don't think that means that they're going to struggle against Washington. That defense is just so poor. And yeah, of course, the same goes for the Chiefs defense, but it's Patrick Mahomes, it's Tyreek Hill, it's Travis Kelce. You guys know the whole story. Yeah, they're down Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but that just means they're probably going to be throwing the ball a lot more, putting a lot more points up against a pretty bad defense, and against an offense that probably won't really be able to keep up, and I firmly believe that. I'm going to be taking the Chiefs in this one. Moving on, we have a game that really shouldn't be a noon game or a 1 o'clock game, depending on where you are. It's the Chargers and the Ravens. The Ravens, what a comeback on Monday Night Football. Absolutely ridiculous, but that defense is 100% Swiss cheese, and I think Justin Herbert will take advantage of that fully. Over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns to beat the Browns in an absolute shootout last week. I think this could be a very close game because Lamar is clearly playing incredible football, but if the game has to go through him for the Ravens and you have to rely on that really bad defense, I don't think it's going to be that great of a game for the Ravens. And I do think this could go either way. I think there's a universe where the Ravens can win, but honestly, I just think that there's too many parts on that Chargers team that are clicking too well right now. I'm going to be taking the Los Angeles Chargers. Moving on, we have the Packers and the Bears, a obviously historical NFC North matchup, and this is going to be a lot closer than I think a lot of people think. Yeah, the Packers are playing really great ball. You know, Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams are really clicking. Randall Cobb is even starting to play relatively well. The Bears are starting to get things figured out. Yeah, they still have Matt Nagy as their head coach, but they were able to handle the Las Vegas Raiders, which, I mean, isn't the biggest statement in the world, but definitely looks like Justin Fields is getting a better feel for the NFL. And while I think that can make for a relatively entertaining game, I do still think that the Packers are going to take this one relatively easily. It's just not that time yet for Chicago and Justin Fields to beat the Packers. Up next, we have the Bengals and the Lions. We all know the story with the Bengals in that Packers game last week. That's an anomaly. Don't even think about that. And the Lions, they obviously cannot catch a break, but I just think that the Bengals are a little bit too high-powered of an offense, and honestly, the Detroit Lions are just too unlucky for me to pick them until they can really show that they're a competent team that can hold the end of games. So with that being said, I'm going to take the Cincinnati Bengals. Up next is Nick's game of the week, the Minnesota Vikings and the Carolina Panthers. Sam Darnold showed that he is human, and he is very capable of making mistakes, so what I'm betting on is the Vikings really exploiting that. They definitely did that last week, and hopefully Dalvin Cook can come in and that offense can get back rolling. Obviously, it's struggled the last couple weeks, but I do see this happening. And of course, as you guys would all expect from me, I'm going to be picking the Minnesota Vikings. Up next, we have the Texans and the Colts. Now, both of these teams showed a lot of life last week. Of course, the Colts were basically supposed to win that Ravens game, but we're not going to talk about that. And Davis Mills started throwing touchdowns, which no one expected. But of course, the Texans went and gave up a pretty sizable lead to the Patriots late into the game. So there's a little bit of untrustworthiness with their defense there. I think the Colts are really starting to click on offense really well. Jonathan Taylor starting to really be put in that game plan. And Carson Wentz looks like he's, well, his old self now. aside from the fumbling issue still being a thing. But I think the Colts are going to take this one pretty easily. Up next, we have the Rams and the Giants. The Giants are down way too many pieces, and the Rams are just too strong. I'm not going to talk about this anymore. The Rams, they're going to be taking this one very easily. Up next, we have the only undefeated team left in the Arizona Cardinals versus the Browns. This one honestly could go either way. We saw the Arizona Cardinals struggle quite a bit against honestly not the greatest defense in the world in the 49ers. And of course, we saw the Browns unfortunately lose that shootout to the Los Angeles Chargers. But this team is obviously capable of putting up major amounts of points. Nick Chubb is starting to, get it going, of course, along with Kareem Hunt. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that are split on this game. I honestly don't know who I want to pick. So we're going to do the Nick coin flip. Hey Google, flip a coin. Arizona's heads, Browns are tails.
It landed on heads.
My pick is going to be the Arizona Cardinals. Up next is the Dallas Cowboys and the New England Patriots. Good on the Patriots for coming back last week. Obviously, the Cowboys are still playing super well. Trevon Diggs got another interception. That defense is still playing incredibly well. I've said this from week to week for a few weeks now, but I mean, there's not really much else you can say about the Cowboys. They're just very consistent. And the Patriots, well, I necessarily can't say the same thing about them. I think there's a chance that Mac Jones can keep up with Dak in that offense, but I really do think the Cowboys are going to come out on top here. Up next, we have the most awkward game of the week with the Las Vegas Raiders and the Broncos. We all know what's going on with the Raiders. I think that's going to cause some distractions this week during practice. I don't necessarily think they're going to come into this game super prepared. Now, of course, the Broncos didn't show out too well either last week, but I mean, hey, they at least still have their head coach, so as much as I was kind of reluctant to pick the Broncos, like going into, week 6, after the whole John Gruden situation and how much the Raiders really struggled against the Bears, I just really don't want to pick them. So I'm going to be taking the Broncos on this one. Up next, we have the Seattle Seahawks and the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is where the Seahawks are starting life without Russell Wilson. So it's going to be a lot of relying on, honestly, not a great defense to keep them in games. Geno Smith came in and played relatively well last week, but obviously there's a reason he hasn't been a starter in this league for, well, really ever. Now, the Steelers, they look to be getting a little bit back on track. Najee Harris is still out there showing off why he was worthy of a first-round pick. He's really the main consistent part of that offense. Yes, Deontay Johnson is getting tons of targets, and it looks like Big Ben is kind of getting back in the swing of things. He can't really move still, so that's obviously not the best, but I do think that is enough for the Steelers to be able to take this one against the Seahawks. I just don't know what we're going to get full time with Geno Smith yet. So until we see that, I can't really take the Seahawks, even though they do have a lot of great pieces. And because they're still down Chris Carson, which is a big blow as well, I'm going to take the Steelers. And rounding off the week, we have the Buffalo Bills and the Tennessee Titans. This one is incredibly easy for me, and I think it will be for a lot of people. The Bills are clearly the most deadly team in the league on both sides of the ball. Had no problem taking care of the Kansas City Chiefs last week. And the Titans, yeah, they're winning games, but they're still down major pieces and relying only on Derrick Henry, and that only can get you so far against a team like Buffalo. This one's going to be probably the easiest pick of the week for me. This is going to be my lock of the week, actually. I don't even do locks, but I'm going to start with this one. I'm taking the Buffalo Bills. And that's going to wrap up week 6 picks, guys. If you thought these picks were great or if you thought they were awful, regardless of what your opinion is, let me know in the comments down below. It's a great conversation to have from week to week. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit the button down below to subscribe. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you give it a like as well. If you want to share this video with anyone, you can do that with anyone on any platform. And if it's a crack dealer on the corner, that's your guys' best option. You guys already know. My name is Nick, and I'll see you guys all in the recap between the Minnesota Vikings and the Carolina Panthers coming out on Sunday. Adios.